Hi, everybody. Michelle and Josephine here. Hi,
Hi,
Josephine.
Michelle.
So we've been actually blabbing for like an hour, which gave us an idea for our next YouTube. But this one, we're going to talk about sugar and how it affects the adrenals.
Yeah.
So personally, I'm a recovering sugar addict. I definitely can share my experience there, but I think that we both have a lot of knowledge.
Well, I think you got the sugar, me for pasta. I mean, I
Yeah,
could have lived on pasta.
yeah,
My
same here.
morning, afternoon, and night would have been just fine with me. In
Bread,
any way, you can. It wouldn't
yeah,
have mattered how I had it. It was, and it's an easy food to cook, right? You just got to do the pasta, put sauce, whatever kind of sauce you're doing, and whether it's tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes, garlic and oil only, you know.
well,
But that was
I think everybody knows we were raised Italian,
yes,
and
yes,
when you're raised Italian, literally the staple of your diet is pasta.
yes,
We had it 4 times a week, and Sunday they make the big. We called it gravy. We didn't call it sauce. When I first moved to Texas when we were a teenager, I would tell my friends, and they're like, "You're going to put brown gravy on your pasta?" I go, "No, we call it gravy. That we're from the Northeast." And so my mom would make a big pot of gravy on Sunday, and we would eat at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We
that's
would have
right.
a big feast, and then she would use that for the rest of the week, and we would have pasta probably another 4 nights, throughout the week. But pasta
She
is
made
good
it.
in the
She made it with
intestinal
what?
tract.
Did she
Huh?
make it with the meatballs and everything?
Yeah, we had the
Yeah, yeah.
meatballs and the sausage
Sausage.
and she'd pound the steak and
Yes.
it
I
was
know.
well, my dad's from South Philly, so I was, even though I was telling Josephine I'm 20% Italian, but I've had like 4 Italian last names between, biological dad, stepdad, marriages. Anyway, I was raised very Italian. So even though I don't have a lot of Italian blood, I was raised in a very traditional Italian family. So I have a lot of, the mannerisms and the upbringing of an Italian family. So I think Josephine and we've become friends because we have that background.
Yeah, I think so. I think like my best friends have always been Italians, women especially, because I don't know. It's there's something that is very different also with us, and there's an understanding without needing to speak about it. I don't know. It's the way it is. Not that I think anybody else is bad or anything. It just happened that way, I
Well, I
think.
think
And
another
it just
thing too
happened.
is
But
that when you're raised in an Italian household, the Italian father is very strong, kind of like an iron fist, and so
yes,
you raised to be kind of tough because because you were raised in that environment. So we don't intimidate easily, and we probably speak up, whereas maybe other women don't so easily, or they're easily intimidated. But when you're raised with an Italian father, you're not very easily offended.
no, no. I remember that my first boyfriend that I had, he came and knocked on my door and he had long hair, curly long hair. And my father says, "Do you expect to come in here with your long hair?" Says, "You're not coming to see my daughter until you go and have a haircut." So the next day, the kid, he was 3 years older than I was. And he did. He went and have a haircut, and he was Italian. The boyfriend was Italian. And they became the best buddies. Best buddies. They played cards together. They smoked the cigarettes together. I was supposed to marry him, this person. By the grace of God, I didn't, but I didn't get better the next time around. But anyways,
Yeah, I know.
that's
Well,
another
that's
thing.
going to be our next video.
Yes,
Is we're going to talk about just men dating, relationships, and stuff like that. But this one, we're leading into the sugar because if you have a lot of white flour in your diet, I mean, bread, candy bar. I mean, they're just virtually the same thing in the body, how your blood sugar spikes. So you can easily become addicted to the starches and the sugars when you are raised, on those kinds of foods like
Food.
flour.
Yeah. And the white flour, the way it is now with all the bleach that they put in, right? And I think it's been that way for quite a while. I think, some people say also that in Italy, their flour is better than it is in North America. But then again, on the other end, a lot of the Italians in Italy suffer from celiac disease. So I'm not sure, maybe because they have too much. But the thing is, with, like you just said, the sugar spikes that we get by eating too much sugar, then we get the adrenalines to stimulate. It stimulates the adrenaline glands, and then here we are like comatose. I remember that's why in Italy, by the way, they close shop after lunch because they have a big lunch. Of course, they don't go rest, but the thought process is not there. And you can see that actually in politics also, where I think it's getting that way everywhere, but Italy is more pronounced where with their politicians, the way they are and the way that the country has become is because also the kind of food that we eat sometimes, it does, not sometimes, but if like in their culture, they may live a longer life, but they're all brain fogged because they're not producing a lot of artists anymore. They're not producing the Michelangelos anymore. They're not producing anybody anymore as they used to in that country. And I think it's like that where it has spread all over the world for other cultures as well, where it's not just the food, but it's many things. But I think the food mainly is does affect the body. So when the adrenaline glands are kind of like shut down, we're stimulated by it, by the food, the thought process is not there at all. I mean, we can see it all around us now with what's going on, and it's not just with the sea, whatever it was called, whatever they want to call it. It was way before then, and I think when that happened, it may have woken up a little bit more people, but I think that food is a major thing, major thing.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
high carbs diet are, I mean, unbelievable.
And
You
usually
know,
people who are losing their adrenal and thyroid will revert to having more carbohydrates. So if you're sympathetic dominant, you're going to, or slow oxidizer, you're going to crave more starches because that's to get some energy. And then people switch them. So like I cut out the gluten and stuff in my 20s, but then I switched it to something else, and I was also drinking alcohol and I would pick all the sweet drinks. I would drink things that were like rum
yeah,
runners,
yeah, like
loaded
this,
with sugar,
right?
So not only am I getting the alcohol from the alcohol, but I'm getting the sugar. So then that's really messing with your brain, all that sugar and alcohol. And then, people who they'll change it to fruit. When I was a Beachbody coach years ago in my 40s, I created these 3-week sugar detox groups. And I put together a little booklet and I would host these groups where I was teaching people how to untrain their taste buds. So we would do maybe 40 grams of sugar a day. So you had to look at everything. You couldn't have the peas and carrots. You had to watch your vegetables, and we would limit it to 40 grams of sugar. You wanted to have a small piece of fruit that was fine, but it was limited to 40 grams of sugar. Well, after the 3 weeks, what happens is your taste buds change. And
Yes,
so then when you go to, like, if I was to eat a grape or something, I would be like, ew, because it's like shocking to your taste buds because you've completely deprived them of the sugar.
yes,
And people would drop weight. I had diabetics in there that would go from diabetic to not diabetic anymore. It was actually really great. I loved doing them. I did them for a few years, but now I'm off Facebook and I'm doing other things. But I learned a lot doing those groups that you literally can change your taste buds. But it's easy to fall off the wagon, just like an alcoholic or somebody who's, smokes or does something else. If you have an addiction to it, you can easily fall off the wagon. But
oh
I
yeah,
know better that if I do then I just, just stay away from it. And then like right now, I haven't had any carbs for like 6 weeks. So if I was to have anything that was remotely sweet, I would probably be like shocked.
Yeah, and you probably the taste bud they may not be I remember like for over 10 years I didn't have any pasta at all. And
Mhm.
even today, like I can't even have the semolina because if I have the regular real pasta, I can't, the body cannot handle it, right? So if I have, let's say, the gluten-free pasta once in a while, um, I didn't think I could even eat that again. I really, because I used to think after a while, because the taste bud changed, it was like rubber food. That's how it felt. It felt like rubber food, really. I don't know what was so exciting about pasta. But
Yeah.
once you start again, it's like an alcoholic. It starts
Right.
again. All right. So even if it's only once every 2 weeks or once a week or whatever, I mean,
Well,
and
it
I,
comes in slow. Like you go,
yes,
oh, I'll just do it this one time.
yes,
Then that one time between the next time shortens and it gets closer and closer. And then all of a sudden it's back in your life. So, and that's fine. We fall off and we, kind of take the wrong road once in a while. But I found over the years that the more you do it, the cleaner that you get, the easier it is to bounce back.
yeah, exactly. Really, the diet, uh, we need a diet that's higher in fat. Although for slow oxidizers, the more fat we eat and the more comatose we feel. So we have to really balance that out. But a lower carb diet is always better. The lower it is, the better
Mhm.
it is. No question, because it does balance our blood sugar. And our blood sugar is what really gets us really in trouble. It's like even the simple sugars, like when we tell our clients not to eat fruits, right? It's like, oh my God, no fruits for the summer. And while they start, it's a process of weaning yourself out, and doesn't mean you got to stop everything. I mean, if you have, let's say, a piece of watermelon, let's say, the worst. I'm thinking of the worst fruit there is out there because it's mostly water and sugar. But Italians again love their watermelons, so that's why I'm bringing it up. But let's say you eat some, doesn't mean you have to eat the whole watermelon. You only have a little piece, and then you start weaning yourself off, and you'll see a difference. Actually,
Mhm.
that's the thing. When people stop eating sugar, just simple sugars, they're going to start noticing a big change in themselves. They're going to see, they're not going to feel as brain fog as they used to. They'll feel maybe a little bit less anxieties as they used to. So, I mean, only one food, eliminating only one kind of food, which is, it's a huge food because it's carbs. Okay. Only that makes a big difference in somebody's um, health, actually. And then the lower we go with the carbs, and it seems like the more we maintain our blood sugar and we try to keep that in balance, and that is better for the adrenaline glands, really. The
And
whole
I think
thing
it's
is all
better for
about that.
the blood pressure too, because what
Yes,
happens is the more sugar you have in the body and with diabetes, it actually retains more fluid. The sugar
yes,
needs the water.
yes.
So if you have less sugar, you're going to have less water. And so you won't look as watery and puffy when you eliminate the sugars as well.
That's right, because the more work we give the adrenalines, the more work we give to the adrenalines by overeating sugars, especially, and even some starches, you know, and the more stress we put on the adrenaline glands, and the more stress we put on the adrenaline glands, the more fatigue we feel. Then we get into the chronic fatigue, and we get so. I got people who are eating well. Some are on a carnivore diet. They only want their hair tested. That's all. They're not interested in the program. They just want to know about their hair. But interestingly enough, they seem to be doing well. They appear on the hair test as though they're eliminating a whole lot. But the clue here is on their sodium potassium ratio that is low. below 2.5. So they're putting strain in on their kidneys. So these kind of diets, like carnivore, where you only eat meat, let's say, and there's no carbs at all, and there's no starch at all, only eating fat food and meat and stuff, uh, may be good for about maybe a month or so, but I don't know if it's good for a long duration. I think it's dangerous for
Yeah,
the
I
kidneys.
don't
Wouldn't
think
you agree?
any diet that completely eliminates something long term is good.
Right.
So, I think every person needs to be approached different. So say like for instance, my dad had a couple of heart attacks a few years ago and he's eaten really fatty stuff his whole life. So I was like, you know what, just put him on a completely vegan diet for a couple of months because a couple of months for someone like him would really just help clear things out, but not long term. If somebody has to, maybe they need to drop some weight and they do keto or carnivore, you can get rid of that watery that we just talked about with the sugar and the carbs. Immediately, you'll probably drop weight right away because it's water retention and you'll be able to lose some of the weight. But long term, keto and carnivore are bad for the kidneys and liver. So bad for the kidneys and liver. It puts a huge burden. Keto, if you are a slow oxidizer and you have all that fat in your diet, yeah, don't even think about having good bowel movements because everything's just going to move too slow. Carnivore diet, you're not getting the fiber that you need to be able to have bowel movements as well. And I've seen some popular people on YouTube that are on this diet and traditional Chinese medicine. If you have a whole bunch of lines right here, that's the liver. And this guy has like 4 or 5 lines here. And I'm like, he is just, yeah, these people may look thin. And there's another popular person that does keto,
Yes.
a Dr. B. I'm not going
Yes.
to say his name.
Yes. Right.
He started it. And, the thing is, people become very popular because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be skinny. They want to look good.
Yeah.
So anything that's going to make you look good, you're going to like, oh, I got to do this, jump on the bandwagon. Somebody's lost 20 pounds. But if you really look at him, he's got bad kidney chi. He's got dark circles under his eyes. He's got wrinkles. And it went from maybe something that was healthy because if you look at his old videos, he looked very watery. He had too many carbs and sugars in his diet.
Right, exactly.
Then he did this diet and he was looking healthy for a while. Now
Right.
it's too extreme.
Yes.
We can't go extreme on any of these diets because what they do is they go from bringing you to a balance to bringing you completely in the opposite direction.
Exactly. Same thing with the carnivore. Now, my clients right now are looking okay. They're not looking bad or anything. But I don't know how long that's going to last. They're both not old. They're only in their 40s. So they're quite young still. But I think about the one that promotes it a lot. And his name is, his first name is Jordan. So just figure out who it is, right? And he's a psychologist from Canada. And his daughter, who really got him started on that diet of carnivore. But those two, they both look sick. Both of them. Him, he's kind of like emancipated almost. That's how.
So they go from like one extreme and then people start to look really healthy and you're like, oh, that looks really good. But you have to really pay attention and they go and then all of a sudden you see the wrinkles, you see the lines, you see the circles under the eyes. They're probably super dehydrated. So they went from water retention to normal to now a low sodium potassium ratio. And I don't know.
Low
I don't
sodium
believe
potassium.
in extremes.
No, me neither. I think to a certain extent, I think it's important to really start thinking about the type of food we put in our mouth. Like, I buy meat, I buy my lamb, usually at a farmer, but in the last few months, I wasn't able to reach him, so I had to buy my lamb at the grocery store. And that lamb that I was buying at the grocery store, although they claim it was lean, I mean, I've never seen lean lamb, but anyways, you should see the lamb, the fat that comes out of that ground lamb. I mean, and so what I do now is for people who are listening and buy their meat at the grocery store, especially lamb, I cook my lamb first in order to remove all the fat. Because being a slow oxidizer, too much fat for me or my mom or my sister, it slows all of us too much. It would slow down completely. The machine is like, it's not working. It's like putting sand in the motor, you know? So I have to cook the meat first without putting anything because there's so much fat, and then just drain the fat. And then I add my onions and stuff and whatever. Okay, but I got to drain the fat first. So this is another thing that when we buy food now at the grocery store, that is not what it used to be. You know, the quality of food, now it seems like we have to buy it from a farmer, but I mean, not everybody's is able to get farmers. I mean, you know, it's when even if you live in the city, the farm can come to you during the weekend, or the people who are farmers, they come once or twice a month and they bring their stuff all frozen, which is fine, okay? But even then, you know, it's like our food quality, the quality of our food is definitely no longer the same. Now, I'll go back to Italy, where they claim that they have no GMOs them on anything. And I believe it because Italians, they live for food. Okay, they live for food. So they spend their days doing all of that. They go shop for their food in the morning. They cook all day for the whatever, and then they get together as a family and they eat. That's what they do. They love it. Okay, if people say, well, that's a problem. I don't know why they live so long. Maybe they got no stress and they're around family. But on the other end, they always scream at each other. So I don't get it either. But whatever, it's like, but in that country, I think like the olive oils that we get and they send to us, they import, export. I don't think they send us the best quality. I think probably we're getting second, third class quality of everything that they sell. That could be for the same in Greece and places like in Spain as well. The food that we get, it's like
and I notice everything's rotting. Like when I go look at, when I try to pick out vegetables and stuff. Remember I sent you the picture of the rutabaga that had a thick layer of wax. Like the wax was so thick, I was like, oh my gosh, like it was probably a 1/4 inch around this rutabaga. And I don't know what's happening, if the food, why it's the food is not, I don't know if people are not buying it up and that's why it's going to waste. Maybe they got so used to not being able to shop and get fresh food during the thing that happened in 2020. So people have resorted to other ways. Maybe they're growing their food. I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know. You know what
I do know that when I go shopping and I look, nothing looks great. It does not look good at all. And if I have Instacart buy any of that stuff, forget it. They don't even pick out anything good. So I don't know what's happening.
No, in Russia during the communist days, when they used to stand in line, they would stand in line to pick up rotten food. Really, that's what I read in those days, where it was only rotten food they were able to buy. And you know, North America, it seems to be heading that way. You know, where even broccoli,
things are expired. You know, I bought something the other day and then I opened it and I'm like, this expired 4 days ago and I just bought it. Like they don't.
No, and that, you guys, is unusual in the United States because the population is huge. So there's something going on because that's not normal. That really isn't normal. It's not that they're buying so much, and then that it's not selling.
Yeah,
you got enough of the people to buy this, right?
Yeah, I don't know what people are doing because we have, you know, we have a lot of people, like you said. So I don't know what's happening with our food. Maybe we should ask people, like, are you growing it? Like, are you not eating fresh food? Like, what's going on that when we go to the market, we're not seeing fresh food? Like,
right. I would like to hear from the people who are listening today, whether in comments, whether they've noticed that too, where they live as well, because certainly that's the way it is where I am right now. You know, a lot of the vegetables, what they do, they even put it around saran wrap because people are not buying it. I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. It's
And the
getting to
stores
be.
are crowded, you know, I
Yes.
see people in them. And
Yeah.
I go to all different grocery stores because it depends on how much time I have, how far away it is, you know, things like that. So I shop at, I think, like 4 different places. And 2 of them are Sprouts and Whole Foods. So I do go to 2 natural markets and 2 regular markets. And I look around and the stores are crowded, you know, there's tons of people in there. Maybe I should pay attention. Maybe I should look at them, look at their carts more and see what they're buying. But if anybody has any insight or, you know, your experience, definitely share it with us. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. Is it that I don't know what it is. Is it because like now where I am, there's hardly any, it's very warm, but there's no sun. Can't grow anything without sun. It could be as warm as you want, but if there's no sun, vegetables are not going to grow. Last year was the pits of the world for the vegetables as well, because there was hardly any sun, but it was very, very warm, very hot and humid. So that's not a good climate either to grow good vegetables. So I don't know what's going on. It's not like when this thing happened 3 years ago, we thought there was not going to be any more food on the shelves, and that lasted a little while. I think now it's going to be more about money. If you don't have enough money, you're probably going to starve because the food, it's like going up, up, up. I mean, for 3 people, it can cost up to $500 a week for 3 people.
Oh yeah, it's expensive. I mean, just for me and the animals, I'm probably spending $150 or more a week in food. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot because this is $150 US we're talking.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I did buy some toiletry items, but yeah, I went to the market the other day. It was $130. And I'm like, I didn't really get a ton of stuff, you know?
I know. It's like hardly anything. And every week it's getting more and more and more. And even if we get let's say you want a garden, it's very nice. It's very romantic and it's like very trendy. But the fact of the matter is, I've been trying it for 3 years. You know what I mean?
I know. And then remember I tried in Arizona. I took one trip out of town because they didn't have an irrigation system and everything died. You know, I'm like, forget it, you know.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, is it that we don't have a green thumb? It could be, depending where you live too.
I don't have the time either. Yeah.
Exactly. You got to put a lot of time in your garden. You got to really love your garden. You got to work the earth every day.
Yeah.
You got to, you got to put
Keep
every
things
day.
out of it.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, it's like, Harold used to say to my sister and I used to think and dream about wanting to live on a farm. And because it was everybody was living on a farm, going to live thinking, but they were not my age either. They were 20 years old. You know what I mean? Let's face it. But he used to say to us, because he was born on a farm and they had 100 acres. So and his father was like a real farmer. He says, you wouldn't even last a day on a farm. And I said, oh, no. Well, I mean, only a garden I'm having a problem in a farm.
I know.
I get it.
I got 3 animals and that's enough. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
I know. I mean, it's not, we're not all, and not everybody's cut out to do these things. And we come from a generation that were very, very spoiled. So maybe our great grandparents, that's a different story. But us, I mean, we're not cut out. So the thing is, so we started with the sugar, the adrenaline glands, and basically the diet for people who start the program, especially for adrenaline fatigue, especially the diet requires a low or no sugar, or possibly a low carb diet completely, in order to maintain the blood sugar. Okay. So the more we maintain that blood sugar, the better it is. It's not that easy, but like you said, once you stop feeding yourself the carbs, you start to feel so much better already. And you start losing some weight. Some people need to lose the weight. Then you got those who are really skinny. I have some clients who are really skinny on the program, and that's like a very big concern because instead of gaining weight, they lose more weight. But I can assure them that once the body starts to balance itself out, the biochemistry starts to balance itself out, you can bet your bottom dollar that you're going to start gaining weight because
Yep.
I started to gain the weight. Okay.
And
And
I've
now,
seen it with my clients too that
yeah,
were too thin, that were
yeah,
men. And
yes,
now they're starting to gain the weight. But in the beginning, yeah, the body needs to fix a lot of things. And if
yes,
you've not done a healthy diet for many years and you're older, it's going to take a little while. I've been eating healthy for 20 years. So I didn't have like leaky gut, acid reflux, IBS. Like I had none of those problems because I fixed them 20 years ago.
right.
So, for some people though, you have all those problems. You got candida, you got all these things. And, I, it took a long time for me to fix them. So it's going to take a while and you may gain weight, whatever, because the body's just going to shift until it can fix everything.
Yeah, it takes time. It's like we're work in progress, basically. That's the word I was looking for last week. But really, what we are work in progress, all of us.
Mhm.
And we're not doing this. This is not a marathon. This is not where we're going to win a medal at the end of the day. But what it can do for us, and that's the goal, is to not go to the doctor's office every time there's something. Every time your heart starts to beat, that doesn't mean you have to call 911 and go to check yourself to an emergency room or anything like that. So I think the more you discipline yourself on certain things not to eat, and the better you feel and the better you start thinking. And the better your mind gets, the better you make better decisions in your life as well, and the more aware you become. Now, depending on the kind of awareness you want to have, some people go a bit too far with certain things that makes not always some sense, but that too needs to balance itself out because there's so much garbage on the internet. It's not funny. I
Mhm.
mean, unbelievable. The stuff that's on everything, like when we started, we didn't have that much choices
Mhm.
as we have now. Everywhere you turn, everybody's got a diet. Everybody's doing this, everybody's doing that. But one thing I think we all agree on is that the less carbs you have, the better it is. A low carb diet is always better than a high carb, like they used to actually. Remember
Especially
when?
the unhealthy kind, because you do
Yes,
need some. Our brain
yes,
does need sugar. So when you
yes.
take it completely out, you're not going to be able to think clear. Like we
No,
do need some of it.
yes.
But the thing
I
is, like,
think like with the that carnivore diet, they don't have any carbs at all, right?
no,
None. So
no,
that's
it's all meat. Yeah, I don't
it's
even
yeah.
think they're eating vegetables, which I can't even
No,
imagine with their bowels. Like, if I go a couple days, like when I'm traveling and I have a hard time eating vegetables when I'm traveling for work, especially when I go to places like my offices or in Rapid City, South Dakota, and Cheyenne, Wyoming. Trust me, there is not a lot of healthy food there. And so I don't get enough vegetables. I have to bring like smooth move tea with me so that I can keep my bowels moving because I know me. I know I have to eat vegetables. I may not like it. It's not fun sometimes. And I can't tell you how many people's houses I go to that they make fun of me because I eat vegetables. But you know what? Those people are not doing their number two. so so I don't care if people make fun of me because they don't go to the bathroom. They have irritable bowel syndrome, they have constipation, they have all these issues. So you can make fun of me all you want if I'm eating vegetables because that's what keeps me from having the problems that I had in my 20s. They were horrible. The doctor told me you're going to have to be on Prevacid the rest of your life. I had my first colonoscopy when I was 25. I had bleeding hemorrhoids. I had IBS. I had acid reflux. I had all these issues because of my diet and because of stress. And when the doctor said I was going to have to be on that the rest of my life, I started doing research. And I'm like, what can I do different? Because I'm against being on a medication the rest of my life. So if there's something wrong, I'm going to figure out how to fix it naturally. And I'm just going to suck it up and have a boring life with my diet. So I don't have to be taking medication. And
No,
that's how I
exactly.
changed. I started changing in my
That's right.
20s because I didn't want to have those problems and I didn't want to be on medication. And they're all gone. So if somebody tells you that you can't cure IBS, leaky gut, acid reflux, all those problems, trust me, I had them all and I've got nothing. They're
That's right.
completely gone.
Yeah, me too. It was the same thing. And I had no life because of my bowels. But my husband or my ex-husband used to bring me prune juice for instead of flowers. I mean, puff flower. Yeah, instead of flowers. That's what he used to bring me. And I mean, pretty ridiculous, but I didn't go to the bathroom because of my diet, because of stress too. Then I started these 5 gallons of water that I used to do, like the
Mhm.
Jensen, what he used to promote with the Coloma board. I think I did that for about 10 years because there was nothing, no movement, no movement. And I ate a lot of salads that was way too cold for my gut. And so that didn't work, just like you, IBS. So yes, I agree with the vegetables 100%. If I wouldn't have the vegetables, when I slack off, which is very rare because my bowels is number one, that's what I tell my clients. The goal is to go to the bathroom. That's your goal. That's the first thing because you want to eliminate, because that's where all the stuff is. You know, we got all the toxic metals. It's in the liver, it's in the colon, it's all there. And if you don't
And we
eliminate
have
enough,
parasites that are
yes,
dying off and they need to come out. I mean, there's so
yeah,
much stuff. I can't believe I would go like every 4 or 5 days when I was in my teens. I can't even wrap my head around not going to the bathroom like that. Like if I only go once in a day, I think, oh, that's like I want to go more than once because you eat a meal, you go to the bathroom. Like it should, but because I'm a slow oxidizer, it is a little bit harder. But if once a day should be the bare minimum.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like these clients, they don't with their carnivore diet, and it's not just them; it's everybody that is on that diet. I think twice or 3 times a week.
Yeah, and then they say, "Oh, well, that's because we're using it for energy." Yeah, but there's parasites, there's other things that are dying, and toxic metals and things that need to come out of the body. So it's not that you're using it for energy. I mean, our colon's like what, 15, 20 feet long?
Exactly, a football field, they
Yeah,
say, right?
yeah,
So I mean, not I couldn't live not going to the bath. I live for that. Like I used to live for food. Now I live.
yeah,
I've always lived to go to the bathroom because I would have never started this in the first place. I think if
right.
I would have went to the bathroom on a regular basis, people who have an easy time also, they go twice a day and it's well formed and everything. These
Mhm.
people usually have no problem a whole lot with their health. Okay, they don't have a complaint about their blood sugar. They can eat pretty much everything like we talked about last week, but most people have a problem with their bowels.
And I
Most
think the
people.
sugar played a huge role in the
Yeah,
IBS with me because I
yeah,
was a major sugar addict. And
right.
so, that I think tore up my gut between the sugar and the antibiotics because I had a lot of sinus infections in my 20s. Those two things led to a leaky gut, which was really, if anybody's had a leaky gut before, it's horrible. It's like everything I ate was attacking my body, and I just would slump over my desk at work. It was terrible. So I'm motivated because I don't want to feel like I used to feel like. So that's what keeps me doing what I do.
That's it, exactly. I think my motivation is to have a bowel movement every day. Once that happens, I feel good. I know it's the diet I'm on, and it's even if you get off of it and you have only a little bit, always think about, it doesn't matter. You can always come back to this diet. Okay, some
Mhm.
people. They think it's too hard for them, especially let's say you have a family and no, you're the only one who's on this program who's doing the vegetables and the meat and but the husband or the wife is not on the program, that makes it very difficult for them too, you know. So that's not easy. But you know, we have to remember that diabetes is one of the, it's an epidemic. It's like it's one in every five person, I think. It's like the 50% of the population they claim back then. It used to be 50%. I think
Well,
now
now
it's
it's like
probably more.
guaranteed. It's almost
Yes.
guaranteed that you're going to get type 2 diabetes. They call it
Yeah.
onset type 2 diabetes because eventually, because stress can lead to it too, because stress with cortisol and adrenaline, there's too much sugar in the body, which there's fluid retention. So you've got the high blood pressure and you've got the diabetes. So typically people who age will have those two things due to those
Yeah.
things,
And
stress
then
and
that's right. And
diet.
then die from you get diabetes, and then you die from a heart attack, because that's what happens usually.
Yeah.
Most people, that's how it happened with my grandmother. It was very hard for her to in those days they didn't have any of the medication, but even with the medication that they take, I have people I know that are diabetes, and they take metformin, and that they think that they're able to drink their alcohol on a daily basis and have their wine or whatever, but eventually it's going to caught up where they're going to have to start injecting themselves, because then they'll become type 1 diabetes. Most of them as you get older, because the medication eventually doesn't work anymore. So they have to increase, and eventually that's the thing with medication, you know. And if we can stay off meds, that's the best thing. And also, you know, try to live life as best as we can. It's not the easiest thing to do, but that's what we're called to do. And not make a big deal. Now, I have Christians who call me or contact me, and they have a hard time putting especially the Catholics or the people in 12 steps. Okay, I hate to say this, but in the 12-step meetings, all they do, they stop the alcohol, but they only eat sugar.
Well, yeah, because alcohol is sugar, so they
Right.
it. Yeah, because the sugar addiction
Exactly.
and the alcohol puts a lot of stress on the adrenals. I know, because I think that is a lot of, you know, what my thing was. So in the beginning, when you get rid of all these things, you're going to be really super tired, and people get depressed because they're not able to do what they were doing before. I know that. That's how I felt probably the first few years. And now I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but I also
Yeah.
have learned, you know, what I can handle, what I can't handle, you know, things like that. It's really just a process, and you kind of take a couple steps back, take a few steps forward, and then you slowly become a new person. So,
That's it. And if
yeah,
you really have to have fruits when you start out, you know, the real low carb fruits include
like blueberries, yeah.
that's right, kiwi, raspberries, strawberries, maybe, but all in moderate amounts, of course. But that's easier said than done. You know,
And then
don't put a
eventually
big
you
plate.
really you don't want them. Like
No,
I
that's
rarely,
right.
every once in a while, like in the summertime, I might get some berries because berries I know are low in sugar, and it's just kind of fun. It's refreshing. I mean, it's going to be like 96 degrees here. So occasionally, but you get so used to not having it in your life, you don't, you know, it's not a big deal.
No, that's it, exactly. So these are all little things to think about, because really these food that we're talking about really affects the adrenaline gland. And when it affects the adrenaline gland, because it stimulates it, then we get completely burnout. We get tired, our NAK goes down, or else we see it in our zinc level. We can see it in the phosphorus level, and so even our minerals get affected with it. So the adrenaline glands, it's not talked about a whole lot, certainly not by doctors anymore, or it never actually. They don't talk about it. Chronic fatigue, when it started 30 years ago, not many people were talking about it, or even 40 years ago, you know. So it's just now it's like everybody knows about it. And you know, but with this chronic fatigue, and when we got these adrenalines that are not working properly, we get all kinds of disease because of that.
Yeah.
It's not just the disease, we get the symptoms. We get the skin rashes, we get all kinds of different things that comes up and pops up, and it's not comfortable. So
Yeah,
anyway,
so give us your comments about the food, if you noticed the things that we're noticing that we discussed in the supermarkets. Give us a like and a subscribe. And then next one, we're going to talk more about like relationships. I'm actually going through a divorce, so we're going to talk about, you know, kind of things that we've learned there, what I'm still learning, what I have yet to learn.
I know it's like that's a lifetime. Well, I think it all boils down to ourselves eventually. You know, where we're gonna really, what is more important in life than. Not that the relationships are not important, but I think, anyways, we'll talk about it next time for sure. But important to like do the thumbs up. Please give us the
Please.
comments also about the foods on the shelves. If you noticed any different where you live, and if you're able to get fresh vegetables everywhere you go. What about the meat and stuff? And if you have any tips, we would really appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josephine.
All right. So we'll see each other maybe not next week, but the following week.
The following week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.